Feast your eyes on the Classic Flyscreen from Dart and the LED turn signal bar ends from Rizoma. Now these bar ends will be set out of the way for a later time. Today we're going to focus on this Flyscreen. It's meant for a Ducati Scrambler with a 7-inch headlight. I'll be using it today on my Suzuki Bandit 1200 from 1997, which now has a 7-inch chrome headlight due to my streetfighter conversion. We're going to get these bar ends out of the way, and I'll go through the packaging and all the items that are included with this Dart Flyscreen. Let's tear into this package. Now if you're like me and you're using this Flyscreen on a motorcycle that it's not actually intended for, then you're probably taking a bit of a gamble or risk. So I do want to go through opening up the box. I want you to see what's going to be in here, what's included with the kit, so it'll give you a good idea if this particular Classic Flyscreen that's meant for the Ducati Scrambler is going to work for your bike. And I've been into this already to prepare, but for the most part this is exactly what you're going to find. A Flyscreen, of course, which is really nice quality. You can feel it as soon as you pull it out of the box. It's got rounded off edges, just nice attention to detail, and it was securely fastened inside of here. So you should get a nice Flyscreen that's ready to go. I'll pull it out of this plastic here. Set that aside for a moment. Additionally, inside there's a little compartment with an inspection sticker. And inside here are a couple brackets for the left and right side, one of which was not sealed up, which doesn't matter. The other one was sealed up, but I've gotten into here already, so let me find my hole. There we go. Two brackets for the left and right side. I believe they'll mount this direction. Nice and simple. And the last item is hardware with some grommets and some instructions. And let me hold this up here so you can see it a little bit better. It's completely simple. You're going to have grommets inside the screen, and then you're going to use the little bolts to put the brackets on there. So this process is simple enough that I'm not going to go through it in the video. I think everybody can figure out how to mount these brackets on the Flyscreen. What I'm going to do is get it mounted on my Suzuki Bandit, and then when we come back in the video, I'll be able to give you some pointers. If there's anything to be concerned about, certainly I'll be able to show or tell how well it worked on my particular bike. But I have a customized bike. I've got the streetfighter front end with the chrome headlight, so my situation may be different from yours. So we'll come back, we'll take a look, see how it goes. And by the way, all my components on the front end of my motorcycle are chrome or silver. I'm going to use these black as is because maybe it'll make them less noticeable, so it'll look like the Flyscreen is just kind of floating. But maybe at a later date I could sandblast this down and give it kind of a polished silver look if I want to do that. But for now, we'll use them as is. And judging by this mounting hole right here, I can already tell that I may need to drill this out just a tiny bit. But that's no big deal. So I'm going to have at it, and then I'll come back and show you how it went. Alright, as you can see, I've got this finished up here. So I'm really happy. I think this is going to work out great. I think it looks good. This is just my personal opinion, but it looks good. It should block plenty of wind for me. I was kind of taking a look at, what's the angle here, and then with me sitting back further on the bike, by the time this wind comes up and reaches me, and I'm a little bit shorter, by the time it gets to me though, the wind's going to be right over my helmet. It might catch me a little bit, but it's going to be far better than what's happening right now, where I'm on the highway doing 65, 70, 80 miles an hour, and I've got all that wind against my helmet. I'm straining my neck, you know, trying to push forward against the wind so my head doesn't go back. Anyway, it'll practically give me a headache. So anyway, things worked out really well. It only took me about 30 minutes, even though, to be honest, I did about 30 minutes, maybe 45, and then I've been out of the garage for a couple hours. My girlfriend and I, we were watching a movie about racism in the Deep South against Asian people. She's half Asian, and it was an okay movie, but I'm really glad to be back in the garage where I belong, working on this stuff. But it was good to get away for a few minutes and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes, so that, you know, I was kind of surprised. And when I flipped the light on it, I liked it. You know, I was glad to see what I had, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. You guys know what I mean. You're laying in bed, you wake up in the morning, you're flipping through Pinterest or whatever, you're looking at photos, you're trying to see what you want to do, and finally I have it, you know. And the process was really simple. I only had to make minor modifications. For instance, my bolts for this particular headlight, again, this is a 7-inch headlight, this is custom, right? This Bandit had a, you know, the fairing up here that wrapped around. So the brackets that came with the fly screen, they had a smaller hole than this particular bolt is. So I had to just drill the hole out a little bit. I put it on the vise, I clamped it down, drilled the hole, no problem. And then I found that when it was mounted, the brackets were kind of angled outward, and I assume that's because that's the way it would have fit on the Ducati Scrambler. So I put my brackets in the vise, and I just got some cloth and I put it on the brackets, and I twisted a little bit to turn the bracket out this direction and this one out that direction. Just a tiny bit, I mean, maybe a quarter of an inch turn. It didn't take that much. That's it, that's all. Oh, sorry, one more thing. There's some tabs that kind of hang down here at the very bottom, and they were angled in. And for me, they were kind of pushing against my headlight mounting brackets here. It was touching that. And so I need a nice flat flush surface. So again, on the vise, I just stuck it in the vise with some cloth to protect it so I didn't damage the surface. Cranked it down, flattened it out, and then I was able to bolt everything up. So I'm going to get my cell phone out and do a close-up and point out a couple things and reiterate a couple things. But I can tell you that when I mounted it all up, I kept these bolts loose, and I put these in nice and loose. I kind of had everything nice and loose, and then I started tightening it down and keeping it forward, you know. And as you start to crank it down this way to tighten it in, it wants to go back on itself. And so you have to hold it while you're cranking things down and tighten it all up to keep it in place. As promised, I've got the cell phone out. I'm trying to get some close-ups. I want to get some different angles so you know exactly what this is looking like. My goal is that other people can determine if this will work for their bike and for their custom project, let alone, you know, another Suzuki Bandit. But let's see here. You can really tell right here what I was talking about with how it's flush with the headlight. And actually, I can loosen that bolt and rotate the headlight a little bit so that it looks a little bit better. I didn't realize till I was looking at it right now that when I finally tighten it down, the fly screen's a little bit too far forward. So since I do want the headlight to be sticking out a little bit more, what I think I'll do is use this hole right here, which is like the perfect size for my bolt. This leads me right into modifications. The hole that I had in this bracket was too small. It was for the Ducati Scrambler. It takes a smaller bolt. This is a larger bolt here. And so I just put the bracket in a drill press and I drilled the hole a little bit larger, and that took care of that problem. Okay, so there's two more modifications I had to make. One was this portion of the metal here. It has a bend. It comes from the Dart factory. It comes with a bend in it, and it bends towards the headlight this direction. But that was running into my headlight bracket, so I couldn't get this to mount flush against the bracket until I put this in a vise and tightened it down and flattened it. And it's not 100% flat, but it was good enough so that I could mount everything up nice and tight. I put some cloth on it before I put it in the vise just to protect this powder-coated painted surface. But that was a really easy modification. And the last thing I had to do was twist the bracket a little bit just a tiny bit, because what I found was naturally with the fly screen bolted up here, naturally this bracket was angled outwards. And so I put some cloth through here. I put this portion of the bracket in a vise, and then again with cloth to protect it and some pliers, I grabbed right through here. I actually grabbed on this angle, actually grabbed the pliers and twisted. So I just had to, twist this like about an inch or two at the handle, which only made like a 1/4 of an inch twist. And as you can see, you really can't tell hardly that I twisted it at all. And I did the other side, of course, the opposite twisted direction. And after that, this was able to mount perfectly flat flush against my brackets, which are very straight. Let's see if you can tell here. Yeah, my brackets, they're perfectly straight and parallel on both sides. They're not on any weird angle or anything like that. So I needed the bottom of the fly screen bracket to be also nice and straight. And then real quick to wrap this up, my process for getting it mounted, so it made it nice and easy on myself, was to keep the fly screen not mounted, get that out of the way, put one bracket on, get your bolts in, but keep this really loose, and do the other side. You'll find your bracket just wants to swing down and hang out of the way. Bring those up, put the fly screen on, but keep it very loose. Just barely snug these bolts in at all. My next step was to hold the bracket. You have to hold it with one hand while you tighten up your headlight nuts with the other hand, right? Because as you're tightening, it wanted to make this bracket rotate backwards, and it wanted to hit my speedometer. So as you can see, I kept almost, basically exactly a 1/4 of an inch space in there. Okay, you got to hold that nice and tight. And actually, you have to pull on that this way while you're rotating that direction. And that's me. Not everybody will have that same scenario. If the bracket wants to be on the inside of your headlight bracket, then the rotation of the bolt in this washer probably won't put any force on this. So you'll have to see for yourself. And then the other side, same issue. As I was turning and tightening, I had to keep pressure on it that direction. Anyway, though, you just hold it in place, keep it tight, tighten everything down, and then come up and tighten these bolts up nice and snug. And I tighten them to the degree that the little washers in here, let me get focused, the little washers were really starting to press down into the rubber, and then I stopped. I could have gone further, but they started to sink into the rubber, and then I called it quits right there, so I didn't overdo it and cut the rubber grommets at all. And that's it. It was simple. It worked out great. And again, this is a 7-inch headlight, and this is the Ducati Scrambler Classic Flyscreen. And I think, considering these brackets are aluminum and they can be bent easily, I think if you also have a 7-inch headlight, then this whole setup should work no matter what you have going on with your headlight bracket. Because these brackets could be on the inside, they could be on the outside, they could be bent and then bent again a little bit, I got plenty of space through here. I have a little bit of room there. I have plenty of room behind these gauges. And these gauges, they're long. A lot of other bikes, the gauges stop, about here. And so you'd have all this space. So keep that in mind. I think that this particular fly screen could work for a lot of applications. In fact, talking about the space here, you'll notice back in here, see these nylon spacers? Well, those spacers, they drop the speedometer and tachometer mounting bracket about an inch. I've got longer bolts through there, right? So these are actually dropped an inch. If your gauges are up at the stock position and up a little bit higher, you're going to have even more room to play down in here. I think that's all I can tell everybody. So as usual, if the video helped you out, gave you some ideas, or solved a problem for you, definitely give me a like. If you think someone else could benefit from this video, please give me a like. And if you are interested in the review of this fly screen, the actual on-the-road review and how much wind protection you get, or if you're interested in my future video to go back and explain how I did this custom Street Fighter setup on here, and exactly which headlight I used and exactly which bracket. If you want to know all that stuff, then subscribe to my channel, and when I post those videos, you will be the first to know. So until then, anyway, thanks for watching and enjoy the ride.